You know how they have the recast after the funeral?
Yes, I know. Is there like a day when it's
One of my
they are now, or do they get like, will they be with the teacher that they're
now going to be graduating high school.
I don't
And
that's
so
fine.
when I went into them,
Not
I
sure.
said, do you remember
I don't
you
even know
always
what I'm
said you'd
doing.
come to my funeral? I'm
So,
holding
I
you
don't
to
know.
that.
Is that-
Might be another 30 years, we're hoping.
Okay. As part of SEPAC's effort to bring technology into the special ed classrooms, we've invited Dr. Bryan Friedlander to come and speak to us about that very topic.
Sounds good.
And
Take it away.
take it away!
Thanks, it's really good to be here. So, I guess for the last 25 years I've been involved in using technology with students with special needs. I started out my career as a school psychologist, spent many years in the Chester Township schools doing that, and I guess about 12 or 13 years ago I decided to go with my passion, which is technology, and so I've been doing that ever since. I'm also full-time faculty at the College St. Elizabeth, where I teach graduate courses in special ed, technology, and also oversee our graduate programs in special education. So, you know, while I do a lot of teaching, I also do a lot of consulting. I do evaluations, I do training, implementation in the area of special ed and assistive technology. And I guess, you know, for me, it's the last 5 years have been absolutely incredible in terms of just the technology platforms that we have to work with. I mean, years ago, we had Mac and PC, and that was great, but it was getting kind of stagnant. And then this device came out called the iPad, and it turned everything upside down. And now we have Windows tablets and Android tablets, and just so much technology. And I usually say, if you can imagine it being possible, it probably is, and you know, with all the technology that's out there. So it's a great time to be involved in this field because so much is happening so fast, and it's even hard for people like myself to keep up. So, but I do my best by reading nonstop for every evening. So today I just want to kind of share with you some apps, some strategies, and some things that I'm doing with different technologies. So for those of you, this is the operational definition of assistive technology. It's part of federal statute, New Jersey Administrative Code. It's used in the context of IEPs, 504 plans, and you'll see if you look at it that it's very, very broad. It was meant to be that way, so because nowhere does it say it has to be electronic. So it could be, you know, for some kids, if you put a pencil grip on and it improves their handwriting, that's assistive technology. 3M sticky notes could be assistive technology. And years ago we used to do a lot of stuff. I'm sure those teachers here remember the Alpha Smarts that were great at the time, you know, when laptops were $2,000. These were $200 or so. So they performed pretty well. But of course, you know, as school districts are bringing in more technology, we're looking at devices like iPads and Chromebooks and laptops and things of that sort. So things have changed. So the whole idea is that the device is a piece of equipment that it increases the functional capabilities of the students, and that could pretty much be in any domain. The only caveat is this is not instructional technology, so it's not intended to instruct. It's really there as sort of a scaffold or a base to help the student bridge whatever the curriculum is. So as I'll show you, like word prediction doesn't necessarily teach your child how to spell, but it allows them to spell the word correctly if you use the tool. Now there's some research that shows that the more kids see words spelled correctly, it improves their spelling, but it's not really an instructional tool. So what I'd like to kind of frame, when I think about assistive technology, I like to frame it. And the other part too, I'll give you a link at the end of this presentation where you can just download this, and I'll give you access to this. So if you want to if you don't feel like taking copious notes. So with assistive technology, I like to frame it as it increases the child's ability to do something. That could be writing, it could be doing math, it could be improve their reading comprehension for those kids that are dyslexic, have trouble decoding, and it provides scaffolding. So if something like electronic graphic organizer can provide that scaffolding to help the student move through the writing process. Increased independence. One of the things that we know from the literature, and probably you've experienced, is a lot of kids who have IEPs or special needs, they become very dependent on adults for help and assistance. So this really allows them to become more independent, which is an important skill, and also decrease frustration. I was at the New Jersey School Social Work Convention a couple of days ago, and I wanted to share that. I can't tell you how many times I get called in because Johnny is a behavior problem during the language arts period because of his writing disability. And so if we could use some of these tools, lower the frustration level, kids are feeling more positive, we reduce a lot of behavioral difficulties as well. So I just want to talk a little bit. So we had the tech person. What are your platforms here so I can kind of frame this a little better? Is it?
Well, we run Windows mostly, and
Okay.
We have some HP laptops in the district. We
Okay.
have some
Yes,
iPads. in the
iPads?
district, yes.
And moving to Chromebooks too, or?
We don't have Chromebooks yet. It's something that we're looking into now because we just, last year they purchased 400 laptops.
Okay, for the,
So we kind of,
so you in Office 365?
no, we're Google,
You're Google?
yes.
Okay, so you got
Yeah,
mixed?
we're a mix.
You're a mix, so you're not using like OneNote or things
No,
like that?
but we haven't moved to a lot of classroom based, some teachers use Google Classroom and
Okay,
such,
all right.
but
All right,
all the kids have Google Drives, we do use
but you
that.
do have some iPads?
We do have some iPads.
Okay, all right. So when you take a look at the presentation I'm doing, is put in the context that there are specific apps for Windows, Macs that do the same kind of thing, so they look different. One of the reasons why I like the iPad is that it has a lot of built-in supports. So for example, it has word prediction, and any of you that use an Android phone or an iPhone, you know that as you start typing, it starts to populate the words. Now, for some kids, or even us, it works well, but for students that tend to have both a reading and writing disability, who spell very phonetically, those word prediction tools kind of fall out, so I'll show you some sort of specialized ones. The other thing is text-to-speech, which is a really important tool overall. That's the ability of the computer to read the text on the screen. And it's a great tool for kids who are dyslexic, as well as it's a great tool to be used when students are writing and they're editing their work. So it's a really important tool for kids to get used to. It takes a little bit of time for them to get used to it, but they eventually do. And there's some interesting things which I'll share with you when I talk a little bit more about these specific tools. The other thing too is speech recognition. I use speech recognition all the time for my emails on my iPhone, for my text messages, and so and this is interesting, as we start using more and more speech recognition, the database behind the scene keeps improving. So it's actually, the machine is learning, and so the more we use it, the better it is for kids. Now, years ago, I used to use Dragon Naturallyspeaking, which was the leading, and you'd probably see advertisements all over the place for it. But if you actually spoke to the engineers, because I would go up to them and speak to them and say, I work with kids who have spelling, reading disabilities. If I go up to the engineers, they would say, we spent all our energy on sampling adults, adult men and adult women, and they sampled very, very few kids. But with this new technology, you have teenagers that are, speech recognition. So the profiles and the data that they have now allows kids to be pretty effective. Today I was working with a youngster girl in the 4th grade, and we tried the speech recognition, and it was like dead perfect. So it's pretty amazing what's happened in a short amount of time with no training. Remember, years ago, I would sit for an hour and a half with a kid, who had a reading disability, and in his ear, I have to say every single word as we were training it, only to learn that it wasn't going to work that well. So this is like immediate, you just know. So it's a great tool. And also, the other part too is keyboards. I found, for a lot of kids that I work with, it's not always the case, but the physical keyboard can be a real detriment to their experience using a computer, whereas the on-screen keyboard changes the whole feel of the device. And if you think about it, a lot of kids are not, touch typists, so they're looking down here, the screen's up here, so they go in between here and here, whereas the on-screen keyboard, they're always looking at the board. So those kids who may have some visual, sometimes spatial, perceptual, this works out pretty well. So if I were to let's see if I can this worksheet. So you can see if I wanted to type the word yesterday, you can see that it's really kind of more word completion. But yesterday I went to the park. So usually after 2 letters, and if park. But what happens if I spell park? I don't hear the A. Let's see what it does. So you can see if I drop out the A, which a lot of kids with writing and reading disabilities would do, this is not as useful. If you can get the first 2 letters, there's a good chance that just the off-the-shelf word completion is going to work. So just keep that in your mind as we go forward. But if I did, if I did PA, you can see park comes up. And then what's nice too, and this is true of both Mac and PC, is text-to-speech is built into the operating system. On Windows, you can use the narrator or other tools. But you can see I have the speak button here. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Yesterday I went to the park.
So it will read the text. And again, if you want to use this for, again, as a reading tool, across the board, the iPad, so if I could be doing research using Safari on the web, and I could be reading using this tool, or I could be writing and listen to it for purposes of editing. A lot of kids I work with, and probably who they are, they usually write run-on sentences, no periods, and then sometimes this tool will help them kind of say, oh, when should we stop? And then they'll stop it and put a period. So for this can be really helpful in the editing process for the students. And you can go into the operating system and make it faster, slower, things of that sort. So this is the standard keyboard that you would see, if you picked up an iPhone, or you probably picked up an Android phone or an iPad. But for some kids, looking at this, what might some students have difficulty with this keyboard? Well, why might they have?
Fine motor skills.
Fine motor skills, right? Anything else about the letters, especially elementary school kids? They're not in order, right? They're all uppercase, right? And so a lot of kids, I give them this and they go, this is like this is a foreign language because they've been working on lowercase. So one of the things I can do here is I'm just going to go and I'm going to change it and doop. So you can see now I have a high contrast. I can change the colors too, but you can see all the vowels are colored, but now it's kind of a Danielian kind of.
How'd you get there? Wait, do I?
It's magic.
Yeah.
Well, so this is it's actually in my notes. This is one of the nice things with the iPad is you can actually install now different keyboards. So you have to go to the App Store. This keyboard name, I'll write it for you. They have funny names, but I think it's like $1.99 or something. It's called Keeble. So if you go to the App Store, you download it, and then it installs. Then you have options for it. And there's lots of different keyboards depending upon what your needs are. So if I and then once you have it installed, if you click on this little globe icon, it'll go through. So this is an interesting one. This one lets you actually write, and it uses handwriting recognition. Okay. So maybe for adults, if you. Okay. So how are you? So this one's called My Script, This one's actually free. Does a really good job. So again, as an adult or a teacher, you might find some interest in that one. And the other part too is, anytime you see the microphone, that's when you can use the speech recognition. I'm here in the Denville schools doing a workshop on assistive technology. So I got made one mistake, but that's not too bad. The other part too, it's always learning, and for those of you that have tried this with iOS 7, from 7 to 8, there was a big difference in that it actually, you may have seen, it sometimes switches out words when it looks at the context, so it will really quickly kind of change things. Probably if I pronounce Denville, again, it might get it, but you can see it's pretty good. So again, for kids that need to, this is again, in the school it's a little bit more difficult to use speech recognition, but at home, for homework, when they said, what's the causes of the Revolutionary War, they could just boom and just get it done, in a matter of seconds. No training is needed. It's built in. You give it a try. You see if it works. And so if you work with the kids to pace their speech, focus where the microphone is. Just a tip: if your child has difficulty kind of focusing their the speech where the microphone is, if you have a Apple earbud with a microphone, just put that on and plug it in, because then the microphone's always going to be like right where their mouth is. Questions? Has anyone tried this with their kids? Does it work?
Yeah, no, it comes in handy a lot,
Yeah, it comes in
especially when they're,
tired
do
and
something on
yes,
their
yeah,
own.
yeah. So it's a good tool, to try, to use. Let's go back here. And so I'll show you one more keyboard called Swipe, which is kind of interesting, but I will give you the URL for this so that you can use it. So let me just click on here. So this one's interesting. It's been on the Android platform for some time. And again, if you have kids that maybe have motor disabilities and have trouble coming off the keyboard, this one lets them stay on the keyboard and they literally swipe. So if I want to say how are you, okay? So again, for those kids, it might work instead of having to constantly, and it lets them also focus in on the screen without having to kind of break it up. And they also have word prediction also. So we could do I am fine. Okay, so they just draw like a line, yes.
Does it just produce the letters that you start and finish at, so it won't trace the letters you're swiping over?
Yeah, it also has the algorithms of intelligence to
Okay.
kind of know that, certain letters are not going to work. And you
Okay.
can see here that it does the word prediction. So if I want yesterday, you can see, well, let's see, you can see even though I move back and forth, it's going to make a good suggestion as to what word, I wanted, so. Yeah, so it's pretty neat. So you have lots of those kinds of options. So some writing tools. Let me just get a sense of the age of your kids here, so I could kind of do a little sampling. How old are some? We have some
Preschool.
preschool. You have some
Up to
preschool.
middle school.
Up through middle school.
Middle school.
Okay. Show everything. No, sure. I'll cover everything. So I want to show you some writing supports that are available. Some of these are I think they're pretty unique. I'm going to start off with a program called Clicker Sentences. But first I have to get back to my regular keyboard for this one. Almost there.
So Ryan,
Yes.
this is just an iPad.
Yeah, this is a regular, it's an iPad Air, not the latest
iPad
one,
Air.
but I can't keep up. Just 30 seconds after I buy it, there's a new one. So let me just clear this out. So this is a tool that was developed by Crick Software, and I know John and Ann Crick very well, known for many years. John was a special ed teacher in England, and he was working with kids with multiple disabilities, and he developed a program called Clicker. It's now up to version Clicker 6, which runs on Mac and PC. And he, once he realized that things were moving over to the iPad, he began to, if for those of you that I see some of you familiar with Clicker 6, these are kind of subsets of Clicker 6. So this one would be a writing program that you would use with someone maybe again preschool, early elementary, where there's a model and a simple picture. I also have this in a sort of an errorless learning mode because a lot of young kids, I call them, they're happy clickers or happy. They're just anything on the board, anything on the screen, they're just going to tap. So the way this would begin, and again, this is probably going to be facilitated by a parent, therapist, speech therapist, teacher, instructional aide. So the way this would start is
The truck is red.
it reads it, and then you'll notice that the only word that's hot now is the word the. So you can see I'm touching, you can see where I'm touching, but nothing registers. So the truck is. So we get into the pattern, the rhythm of the language, and then when I hit the period,
The truck is
it
red.
reads it. And then I can swipe, so I can give the student a writing experience. Everything, and this is a very common interface. You have a word processor up there, either an on-screen keyboard or kind of a word wall at the bottom. What's nice too is you can customize those pictures, so I could put maybe one of Johnny's favorite activities, a friend, anything I want using the camera that's off here. So I can really customize the experience. So you can see that I could, I'm just swiping through the different sentences. The other part too, which is really great, is with John and Ann. They were both teachers. They realized that you may not have all the time in the world, so they actually have a site called Learning Grids. And then once you have the application, say you took a trip to the zoo, I can click the Run Now, and it's going to load all the pictures and the word wall that have to do with a zoo. Okay, so you can see how easy that is. Yes.
Now, the ones in the beginning actually were in order of how they were typed in,
Yeah.
and these are mixed. Is there different settings that you
Yeah,
can?
so I can go in here, actually, let's take that back, let's go back here. I can go into this, and I could, now the other part too is talk about scaffolding. So, once the student got the hang of it, I could, now if you look down below, it's gonna change as I do it. So, this is no model, okay? This is on the grid. I could make it a pop-up so it's available if the student thinks they need it, or I could make it spoken so they can hear the sentence being said aloud, and then put the associated text. I can put it in alphabetical order, random order, sentence order, and guided order. The guided order is always in the order. But you can see that you do have, so this one is spoken and sentence order. So if I click on go, so now if I could do I saw and say I want to listen to it.
I saw a hungry hippo.
Okay, I can actually listen to it.
I saw a hippo.
So teachers can can create their own if they want a particular activity, but I would probably say, look at the learning grids, because there's probably going to be something there, for a teacher to even start out with, So, and maybe I saw a hungry hippo might be, I saw a hungry elephant. You want to put an elephant in there because the kid saw an elephant, not a hippo. You can do that too. So everything happens here. So when I click on this, I can actually go here, and if I want an elephant. So I'm just gonna change this for you just to show you that. So here's a nice elephant. So there's the elephant, and now I saw a hungry. And actually, let's go do this. elephant. And then when I hit go, you can see it changed. So it's pretty fast if you need it on the fly to do something. It's pretty fast. So this would be like, kind of, the early learning kind of app. Now I'm going to show you Clicker Docs, which would be kind of an upward extension. So with this one, this is more a word processor. So this particular application has word prediction. It also has word walls, which I'll show you. And the other part too is I like this interface because I can really, you can see I have 4 words. They're nice and large. So if you're working with kids and may have some visual issues, this is nice. But I can customize the experience. I could have 6 words, make them medium size or small depending upon it is. So. So the way this works is, I don't know, so there's the boy. Of course, it's better with the boy went. Now, if I have trouble with decoding, if I just tap on this blue button here, which is the speak button, I can.
When, where, went. Well.
So I can auditorily preview the word if I'm not sure of how to decode it. Went to the zoo. That's really interesting.
The boy went to the zoo.
And it reads it. And also elementary school teachers tend to use word walls. So this has the concept of word walls. And these word walls would be those specialized words that the student might need to write about. So in this case, these are words related to health and the body. So you see down over here, I can quickly flip through words that I think the student might need. So if I wanted, so by virtue of the words being in the word wall, these words get predicted. They come to the top of the list. And so they get predicted first. So let's take a look at the word here, dark red. If I said, so now I go here. So if I was going to say like, you can see blood came right up to the top because that blood was in that word wall. The student can even access the word wall itself, but blood is now let's see, dark, and then red. So you can see, because those words are in the word wall, then those words get popped up to the top of the list. And this is from the same company, Crick Software, and they have the same concept. I can go out to learning grids, and if you knew the student was writing about Martin Luther King, all those specialized words are going to be populated in the word wall, and then the student doesn't have to worry and raise their hand, how do you spell Martin Luther King every single time? Or you can see plant words, light, so the science kind of vocabulary in there, circulatory system, properties of rocks, and this is constantly being updated, yes?
Is this something that you buy in bulk, like
No,
for
so
school
all
to
you-
get multiple copies of, or
So,
is it
I
just
mean,
individual?
a single copy is $31, but volume pricing goes down to $15 if you buy 20. So that's the.
And that's for each computer?
What's that?
Is that for each computer?
Each iPad, yes. Yeah. So it'd be, if you bought volume, it would cost $15 for 20 to install on 20 devices. That's.
And
Yeah.
does the language for each of those learning grids increase as the grades increase? 'Cause
They usually,
the content covers a variety of different
Right. So
grades.
you can see it's telling you the ages. I mean you can certainly use it. I know it's a little small. But this is kind of more of an this is kind of an elementary school. I would say, again, unless you're working with kids that are 6th grade, but their functional skills are lower, you can use it. But you can see the science terms, things of that sort. So I have 4th, 5th graders that are, using it, and they keep correct. John and Ann, they have teachers that are constantly adding more and more of these sets to the, and these are free. These don't.
So
cost
you don't
money.
have to pay for
No,
the-
so as long as you have the
The
clicker docs engine, these are free.
Okay.
Can you create your own set?
Well, you create your own set, exactly, right. So if you knew that, I don't know, there was something special about the writing project that your child had, you can go in and create a set on the fly.
Well, like vocabulary words, you could literally put in there all vocabulary
Yeah,
words
so you
that they
could,
would have
yeah.
to create for spelling sentences.
Right.
But what happens when you hit more? That's all I know.
Oh, more?
Yeah.
Oh, it just shows you more grids.
In that
Just
same
it
category?
actually
In that
it
same
describes,
topic?
gives you a description of what the content of the grids
Oh,
are.
I see,
yeah.
okay.
But they keep adding. The other part too is for the tech folks here is that you can send your word process documents into Google Drive from here too. So if everyone is writing and then sending it to Google Drive, the student could do the same thing here. So this is their word process. Instead of using Google Docs, they would use this, and you can see it supports Google Drive, right? So then the contents
So
would
if you
go
had it
in.
for like a classroom, then they could.
Even if they don't, but I'm saying, say you have a child that needs to use this instead of the official docs, they could, when they're done writing, they can send it to Google Drive, and then the teacher would have access to their writing that they can comment or edit. So it's kind of. So that's it's clicker docs. Kind of moving up to. Co-writer. Let's go co-writers. So this is Co-Writer, and Co-Writer's been around for about 25 years. It's probably, I think it still has the best algorithms for students that have writing disabilities and spell phonetically. Because invariably kids are going to drop out sounds, and again, I showed you before, the regular word prediction doesn't work. This does a really good job. So for example, if I wrote a sentence, for breakfast I had bacon and eggs, as soon as I type the F, it's there. Usually I tell the kids, look in the middle. Now again, if the students have trouble decoding, what they can do is take their finger and just swipe.
Few. First.
And again, they may have their earbuds on so they can listen. Let me just, so for breakfast, a lot of the kids might spell it BRKF, so you can see they can leave out vowels, and it does it. Hang on.
Which one is this?
This is called Co-Writer.
Co-writer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there are two different versions of Co-Writer on the iPad. There's Co-Writer Universal, which is this, and then this Co-Writer US, which is $18. The algorithms are the same. Co-Writer Universal is the newer one, and it actually allows students to save things. Say they did something on their iPad, they can go home and use Co-Writer Universal at home. It's tied to their account. Whereas the iOS is a little bit different, and visually it looks a little bit different. So this has more functionality, and the way the software is going is that all these companies are looking for subscriptions from schools, so it's a little bit different. You can buy this for a year. An individual license is about $89, but it's a tremendous tremendous application. For breakfast, I had eggs. And I could spell, bacon with a K. And if I keep going, you can see that it did it.
For breakfast, I had eggs and bacon.
Does anyone try? Can you think of kids you work with or your own kids and see how well it does? Yes.
Could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Have you, I'm sure that in all your work you also have PC, Windows-based laptops.
Yes.
And I'm sure a lot of people do at home and stuff also. Are there comparable programs on Windows?
So there's Co-Writer Universal, and actually Co-Writer Universal, there's different ways to go. There's Co-Writer 7, which is kind of like a standalone, but you can get Co-Writer Universal, and that will load into the Chrome browser, and then you can use it just pretty much the way I'm using it. Same algorithms, same features, and then with bless you, with Co-Writer Universal, since it's tied to an account, the student would be able to go home and use it through their own browser as well. Yeah. So pretty much everything I'm showing you is available. It's just it's going to look just a little bit different, but it has the same features. The other concept that it has, just like Clicker Docs had word walls, this has what they call topic dictionaries. So again, if you knew your student was writing on a particular topic, it would we could actually turn those specialized words on, and then those words come to the top. So whether it be a book or they're writing about the weather, let's turn on the weather words. So tomorrow, let's say we are expecting about a thunderstorm. Now what happens if I spell thunder? You can see that, now you can see it kind of truncates a little bit on the right, but again if I go over it,
Thunderstorm.
there it is. So, what did that? Yeah, that's good.
Tomorrow we are expecting a thunderstorm.
Now, what's unique about this is that if the topic dictionary does not exist, I can actually go here and create my own on the fly. So if it's a particular book that your child's reading, we can download all those words. And again, the difference for a lot of kids, especially with writing disabilities, reading disabilities, is they're asked to write about a book that they read, which may be difficult. They may have trouble remembering or writing down the name of the characters, the setting, those specialized kind of words. With this, if the first character's name was Carmine, if you load the topic dictionary for the book and they type the letter C, Carmine's going to come right up to the top of the list. So it really provides that scaffolding for them. So it's a great tool. The other thing too is in working with a lot of kids, just having those words up there for some kids acts as a springboard for those kids that may have word retrieval or sometimes even have trouble thinking about ideas. Just having the words there kind of propels them, kind of moves them through the writing process a bit more. So from here, the same thing. If you're depending upon your district, this also supports Google Drive. So you could have a student using this, they finish, and they send it to Google Drive, and that's where the teacher has access. Supports Dropbox, Facebook, Twitter, email, messaging, things like that. And again, if you have an older student that wants to do Facebook or Twitter, but doesn't want to show the rest of the world, they can't spell, which means they won't use it. Now they can actually do it from here. So if they want to participate in the social networking, they can do that as well. So again, pretty. It's kind of pretty easy to use. The interface is nice and clean, and it does one thing really well. I'm not going to. WordQ is kind of similar, so I don't want to spend too much time because it's little nuances. But so some writing tools. One of the tools I'll show you. I'll just highlight some of the ones that I use. Book Creator. I've been using Book Creator to kind of help support kids who are being mainstreamed. And so Book Creator allows, in many cases, I have a special ed teacher or an instructional aide going into science and social studies, and it allows them to record their experience in those environments where, so when they come back, they actually have like a portfolio that they can then use as sort of a study guide or a way to reflect on what they did. It's a pretty inexpensive application. It's easy to use, and I really have had some great success with it. And because it's portable, I actually create, and it's easy also to create material for kids. I created this for an evaluation. I knew the youngster, little guy, is into trucks, so I created this. So you can, what's nice is you can grab pictures from the internet, you can use the camera on the iPad, include video as well, and then you got this sound button. And now it's recording. Look at my big blue truck. So you can see. Oh, maybe that wasn't it. Let's go back here. Oh, okay, that was just a test, but, so let's go back here. Look at the big red 18-wheeler. There are red fire trucks. So you can see these, and I'll actually create another page. Let's do another, add a page. So these are all the different items you can put in. It's really easy. You can put photos, you can use the camera, and the camera includes both pictures and video, so you can actually video the kids and bring it in here. So if I want a photo, I can click on that. Let's put, let's do, so say the student was learning something about the cells. If I want, I can add text. So this is a human cell. Okay, and done. I can move this around. I can make it. I can make the text bigger. And if I want, I can also record the sound. Today in science, we learned about the human cell and all the features of the cell. And then we can lock these things as well. So we have the special ed teacher or the instructional aide going in, and in many cases, we're recording the student's response to questions, or recording the experiment, or whatever the students are doing. So it acts as both a portfolio, but a great way when the child goes home, and the parents can also see what they did in the class. So it's been a great tool to support students. And I think it's only $4.99. Which is nice. Questions or keep going? So for older students, probably maybe upper middle school, high school, this is called Outline Pro. It's a traditional outlining program. This was actually developed by I forgot which one, but one of the prep schools in New Jersey developed this app for their own writing, curriculum. So it kind of gives kids the structure. Those prompts are built into the template. I didn't put them in. The C is like for topic, and the C would be for content, your ideas. And this can be customized. So actually, this one started out with they wanted 3 paragraphs, but I made it 1, so you can kind of customize the experience. When the students are done, they can export this to Microsoft Word and then use it as the basis of their draft. So for kids that need that structure, and again, you can customize some of the parts of this to make it more consistent with your instruction. So graphic organizers, some of my favorites. And many of you may be familiar with Kidspiration on the Mac or PC. Actually, I used this morning for a youngster, and we kind of broke down the writing activity. What's nice about this is they have a pretty big library of pictures. So you can see there's lots of pictures. So if I would, let me just go back. I'll start a new one for you. And there's also, because this is intended not only to be a graphic organizer, but also it actually has activities. So there are templates built, so like reading and writing. So if I click on use this template, the directions, say the name of each picture, match each picture with the beginning letter. So one of the things that you can do with this is actually create on-screen activities, so the students are kind of moving things into boxes instead of traditional worksheets. Now, the other part too is if you're working with kids who may need to make this bigger, I can pinch and zoom. If the student doesn't know that these are sneakers, one of the things that I can do is go down here and I can actually say the word, so sneakers. So now it's over here. So now the student can now listen to sneakers and then drag it in. So you have lots of controls for for audio. So what I've done with this is I've actually with younger kids created sort of on-screen activities in lieu of more traditional worksheets. So if you're working with kids that can drag and put things into boxes and can work on concept development as well. And then this one doesn't make as much sense, but let me go back here. Let's see, open the documents. You can even do things like some really basic things where you're probably familiar with the refrigerator magnet stuff. You can do the same thing here, so kids can create sentences by just dragging these around. Again, if you wanted to, you could add the audio to it as well. So it's a great application for graphic organizers or creating your own activities or using the templates. Yes.
Is this something that you could even use on, for some of the kids on the big screen,
Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great on the big screen. Yeah.
On smart
Yeah.
boards?
Now again, this is you can get Kidspiration. I'll show you Inspiration, for the Windows, and you could do what I'm doing, and then you could interact with it on the screen.
Is that networked or just a user license per seat?
They have you can buy individual, and they also I'm not sure if network, but they have multi-user.
Multi-user.
Yeah.
So you can stick it on a server.
We have Kidspiration, it's based on a built-in site license.
Yeah, okay, you have a site license,
And
great.
we have 3 site licenses of 540 licenses.
So it's a
Speak to
token.
that gentleman back there.
So you can have 540 simultaneous users on each.
Yeah. So,
It's actually it's a very good program
It is.
for all children.
yes.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, but
We have
it works.
Kidspiration and Kidspiration.
Yeah, and it works really well with the interactive whiteboards too. Yeah, actually, when you start it up, it'll sense that you have a stylus, and it will ask you where you want to move some of the menus. So that's kind of nice. And I'll just show you the interface. It's pretty. It's a looks just kind of a different level, but so you can. So someone did a little brainstorming about Shakespeare on this. So it's great for brainstorming, pre-writing. And when you start using text, if I click on the stripes at the top, you'll see that now you have a traditional outline. So you can go from the graphic or the diagram view and go to a traditional outline. And then the outlines can be exported to a word processor or pages so the student can continue to write. One of the things that Inspiration has, which Kidspiration doesn't because we're dealing with older kids, so kids can come in and actually have note cards where they can continue to write their ideas down, or in certain cases, let's see, you put a note here. I don't know. You can use your voice. Shakespeare was a very well-known playwright. It's not too bad. It changed it. Did you see that? Maybe.
Yeah.
It did. So again, students can use their voice to quickly get their ideas down. They can then come here. Now, one of the benefits of using a tool like this is when you're working on sequencing of ideas, if you wanted to, let's say, you'd say, it's probably best if this was the first idea. I can just grab onto the little handle all the way on the right and just kind of move it up, and notice how everything gets automatically renumbered. I can always, and again, if you have kids, that are more left brain, they can be working in the outline, and you have kids more right brain with images, they can be working on the graphic. But in the end, it produces, a nice organized outline that they can then take and reuse in a word processor. And everything I did is available on the Windows platform.
So you can even with the bubbles put in pictures then instead to
Oh yeah, so if I
describe,
wanted
so-
to, I can come in here, let's say, if I wanted to look for the word theater. So all I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna double tap, and now I have an image of a theater in there. So, yeah, so you can make it. The other part too is, I mean, even for, speech therapists that are working on concepts, this is a great tool. And also it's a great tool for special ed teachers, in lieu of more traditional text-based study guides, kind of more, pictorial kinds of study guides, yeah.
Does it work the other way? Can you start with the outline and
Yeah,
have
yeah.
it switch?
Yeah, so I mean, a student can start here, so let's see. So if I were to type new idea, and then go here, you'll see that here's my new idea. So, yeah. So you can start anywhere. It's a mirror image of each other. So what's that? Let me just go back here. Let me just get out of some of this stuff. Okay. So one of the, again, not that you, and I have done it, so a lot of the kids I work with, they have tremendous difficulty with handwriting. They're dysgraphic. And it's like, how do we overcome that? And I mean, I have worked with kids where, in the past I had to use a laptop, a USB scanner, Adobe Acrobat, and the process was pretty arduous. So when the iPad came out, I experimented with a couple of different things, and the combination of Scanner Pro and PDF Expert for like, I don't know, it's like 10, 12, I mean, together like $12. It's just been absolutely amazing. So what I'm able to do, or a teacher's able to do, or a child's able to do, is take a picture of a worksheet, and in 20 seconds, the kid is typing on top of the worksheet, okay? No longer have to write. Or, if they have the iPad with the speech recognition, they could be filling in the worksheet with their voice. So this has, I mean, this has really been a game changer for certain kids. I mean, I can't tell you, it's been unbelievable. So I don't have a form here, but this was a science. I was working with a kid yesterday, and he was dysgraphic. He was an 8th grader. He's going into high school in the fall, and they're concerned about his writing. And so I asked him to take out a form. So we took this out. I took a picture of it with the iPad, and then because Scanner Pro and PDF Expert, they were developed by the same publisher, Riaddle. All I need to do is tap on the letter A, and you'll see it will fire up this application. Now it's ready to go. So here are my tools. Here's my text tool. Click on here, and I can type Bryan.
Oh, wow.
I could put the date. So over here, first law, what was it? Was it something, a body in motion? So a body in motion stays in motion. Yeah. So you can see I use my voice. So if this was a question, the student would be able to answer the question on the form. They can print this, they can email it, they can put it in Google Drive. So I have kids that are, moving toward a paperless, not totally, but if you would have seen this kid's binder, oh my God, oh my God. He saw this, he goes, oh, this is unbelievable, so that's pretty cool.
Can you collectively then teach them to build like the worksheets within different folders to kind of keep the chapters together, or if they were
Yeah,
so
I mean,
basically
it's
build
not
like a web.
Yeah, it's not perfect. You can actually within here. I mean, I'll just show you if
or
you
do you
want.
just print it out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, but you can actually create. You can create folders right here, right within the application itself. Or again, a lot of times students are moving it to Google Drive, so then they're organizing it in their Google Drive. So, but you can. So there's So you can see that if I wanted to, I can. Let's go here. What's the story here? We've been logged in recent.
I don't know. Maybe
escapes
just
me
send
here.
it to the teacher via that and then
Edit.
not have all the pages. Yeah.
Copy the name, so I can do that. That's interesting. Oh, here, click on here so I can give it, let's say this was math. I can create a folder, and then if this was math, I could just, I could take this and drag it into the folder. And now it's there. So I use it for, I use it for math, for filling out forms, worksheets. It's been indispensable. And again, if in school districts, I kind of see you have some high-end copiers. If teachers take the form to begin with and save it as a PDF and then email it to the student, it eliminates that first step. They can just go right into completing it. So it eliminates one step in the process. But years ago, like I said, kids would have to carry around little USB scanners and laptops. I mean, it's just very fast.
Would this coordinate if you had like a electronic version of, say, a workbook that you already have, that you could then take the pages of?
If you had, as long as it's in a PDF file, yes, it just have to be in a
So it
PDF.
has to be in a solid PDF.
PDF, yeah, that's the only.
But they have to be individually, it couldn't be like a continuous,
No, it could be.
multiple page?
Yeah, multiple page. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't opened up a 200-page PDF,
No.
but not on an iPad yet. But yeah, so as long as it's PDF, you can do what you want. And the other one is there's a free one called SnapType, which is very basic. I mean, you take a picture and then you can type on it, but it's very basic. Whereas with this, if I let's go back here. If I needed the other thing too is I do have some other tools. So say this was I don't know, an activity where the student had to draw a line from a word to a definition. So you can see I have arrow tools. I have different tools at my disposal, so I can use it depending upon what the activity is.
And if you highlight?
We have a highlighter for you. That's actually, let me see, there's a highlight. Here's the highlighter. So I can, let me see.
But it can't read the text.
Well, you bring up an interesting point. So if we're able, so the whole idea, in order to read it, it has to be OCR'd, which is a little bit of a process. It is possible to do. It takes a little bit more time, but it can be done. There are some apps that will.
You could have dysgraphia and another and dyslexia.
Yeah. Because actually built into this is text to speech, except right now it's treating this PDF as if it was just a picture, even though you can see the text. So there are tools that we can do that. So sometimes we'll use an OCR tool and then bring it into here, so now the student can annotate and have it read. And again, it's still a little bit in its infancy, but it's getting better, as the technology changes.
Now, are they doing,
Do you have a good OCR tool? Because I've been using Prismo and it does not do well with worksheets. I find that if the page is perfectly flat, the type is well spaced, it does.
Yeah.
But some of these older ones,
It's kind of
totally
hard.
messes up.
The issue,
Prismo, so I don't find it works.
It works. I mean, I use Prismo. The issue is that the lens on the iPad is not up to the same parity as it is on like an iPhone. Okay, so there are, there's some, those are the nuances. I mean, I have some tools that I can actually read, but not annotate. So I have a reader on here, so if you're dyslexic, it will, if someone could turn the lights up just a little bit, I'll show you this tool.
I'll do it.
Yep.
The other end of the room.
Oh, I'll do it. Is it down here?
It's by the door to the left side.
So I'm gonna put this.
is that enough for the other one too?
So, so this one's called the Knfb Reader. It was developed for individuals who are both blind and dyslexic. And so what I can do with something like this is, well, not this, all this extra stuff here, is take a picture of this and then it's tap.
We haven't tried with the iPad though, right?
See what it does here.
City Services, 888-285-3036. Community Health Law.
So this one will read, it just OCR'd on the fly. It's very fast. And if you're visually impaired, it will give you feedback as to where the corners are and things
But you can
like.
slow down the speed to that just like anything else.
Yeah, you can, yeah. So over here, I have the speed and I can, can speed it up or slow it, slow it.
So it reads it at a different pace.
Yeah.
Can you enlarge the letters also, like the font type and?
Can you? No, I mean, you can actually save, I can save the text, but I can't, it's more intended for auditory, yeah. Especially for the visually impaired who may not be able to do the reading. Prismo, you've had a lot of problems with Prismo?
I have, like I said, if I take a piece of text that is very, very well spaced in like a size 14 font,
Right.
with lots of white space between the lines, it's perfect.
Right.
But if the page is wrinkled, or it's an old
Yeah.
Mimeo thing
Yeah,
that
it's-
the teachers are pulling up and reusing, or
It-
comes from an old book,
Yeah.
forget it.
Just trying to think what other, some
And then it
others.
changes it into like weird simple sound things, and looks like a bunch of string of curse words, and it reads them all too.
I'm sure that it does.
47, dot dot.
So sometimes I use, this is called Scan Plus, and again, depending, it really depends on like the quality of your
Right.
document, size of the text. Pictures sometimes throw it off.
Oh yeah, or if there's little inset boxes, that'll totally destroy it.
Yeah.
Have you used the Intel Reader at all?
I used to.
Yeah, you don't think it's worth it anymore?
No, they don't even support it.
Still have
You
it.
still have it, yeah. Well, that was, it's older technology, yeah. But,
But that was really perfect.
yeah, that worked
Scanned
pretty
everything,
good,
and it was usually
yeah.
accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate, yeah.
We just have had so much fun with Prismo, but whenever I go online, they always recommend that as the top one.
Prismo, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but it will get better as the processor gets better and the lens on the iPad gets better, so. So as we kind of move into,
Are we going back?
yeah, we're gonna go back here. I lost my- Oops. When all else fails, you turn the, I've had this before, I don't know if there's something going on. Yeah, I'm just gonna turn it, yeah, it's usually that, yeah, nothing changed. Yeah. I've had that before where I had actually restored it. I have my Surface tablet. Do you have a Surface? I have a Surface 3. Sure. I have one also, but
She's getting signal.
I think the 3 would be nice. Do you have a 3 or the Pro? I have the 3 Pro. I have a Pro, yeah.
Well, I mean, she's the only person doing it. But she already told you.
Right, before, email.
Right.
That's what I thought.
They have followed through.
Someone didn't get a job description.
Did they follow through?
Because she said she thought that automatically had it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so when we started out, she wasn't on the list. She goes, "Here's my name." We go, "We didn't get your name." She goes, "Oh, go ahead and send it to you." Well, yeah, but she doesn't like I said.
I want that.
There we go. We're good.
When are you gonna know?
So as far as the some of the reading technologies, there are actually, I mean, two that are easily accessible, and they're Learning Ally, which is located outside in Princeton, where they do human narrated audiobooks. What's that?
$109 a session
$109 a year
per kid.
per kid. I know the individual. I don't know what the school. They give schools different options for number of kids, number of books. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
That's a cheap one.
What's that?
That's a cheap one. I check like every few months.
Yeah, and then there's Bookshare, which is uses digital books but uses synthesized voices. So I'll start off with Learning Ally, and again, I mean, I've worked with a number of kids, and they rely on these, all the time. I actually worked with a student. His name happened to be Bryan, and I worked with him during his high school years on teaching him how to use these technologies. And he went to a very competitive high school. It was West Windsor Plainsboro High School, and he was a very bright kid. But when I worked with him, his reading fluency was probably at the 10th percentile. I mean, he could decode. If gave him enough time, he could read all the books in the world. But no one has enough time, and so he started to use Kurzweil. But then, as more and more books became online, he used Learning Ally, and he uses Bookshare too. He's now he finished his freshman year at Cornell, and they actually did a little promo because he won an award from Learning Ally, and he has all his his assistive technology is his iPhone 6. He's got all his college books on his phone and carries around his iPad and his earbuds, and he's good to go. So it's a great technology. So just a couple of things. Many of you may be familiar that Learning Ally, early on, it's about a 75-year-old agency, is they just had audiobooks. Now they have a new format called voice text, where the text is on the screen, so that the experience is much different.
Page 6. Divorce, the secret, fights, split. The big split. Bryan's father did not understand as Bryan did. Knew only that Bryan's mother wanted to break the marriage apart. The split had come, and then the divorce. All so fast. And the court had left him with his mother.
So you can hear it's human narrated, yes.
Which one is this?
This is Learning Ally.
Okay, do they also have the option to have while the word is being read highlighted because it was a setting for Bookshare? Because it actually helps the kids track.
Right. So this is a little bit earlier book. So now what they do in some when they're laying down the newer books, it's a sentence at a time is highlighted. But because it's human narration, in order to sync that, the amount of work that's involved would be just astronomical. So what you're going to see is, let me see if it does it here. Right now, this is still probably the unit. And some of the newer books, it will just highlight a sentence
would live with his father
at a time.
Right.
In the
But
school
it doesn't do that
with his mother.
synchronization.
That's what the judge said. After
Now, you can go in and you can change the speed, the pitch, you can change how large the text is on the screen, but you can't do that word by word highlighting. But for novels, this is great because they're read by a human being, and it sounds good. These are available for Android phone, iPhone. So we have a lot of kids. They can be listening to their books, hopefully, maybe on the ride home to school, to or from. So it works both with the mobile platforms as well. This doesn't have, if I click on a word, I can get a definition using the iOS dictionary, but there are no other supports built in. There's like no note taking, no highlighting, things of that sort. If I go, I'm going to open up Voice Dream. Yes. The best text-to-speech engine out there. Really interesting. It's called Voice Dream. It's also about $8 or something like that, $7.99. So Winston Chen wrote this program because he thought it'd be really neat to have a program that would read his email. And as he developed it, people like myself said, wow, this would be great for kids with reading disabilities. And he kept adding features, and he connected it to Bookshare, which is really great. So you can see down here, this is my sort of my dashboard or my bookshelf. If I click on the plus, you can see all the different places I can get books from, but you can see Bookshare is there. This is probably one of the best experiences for anyone who's using Bookshare to download books. I don't know if anyone has tried on other platforms. It can be a tough task. They made it even more challenging. I don't know if you were reading, do you use it?
We use Bookshare.
Yeah, okay. And using Read Out Loud Bookshare Edition?
I don't use Read Out Loud. They actually have been downloading it, just Read to Go or
Okay. Yeah, so
the one that's on the iPad.
Yeah, so Read to Go is the official app from Bookshare, but at $20, it's no bargain, and I'll show you in a
There's a
second.
free one on the Android.
What's that?
I can't remember what
Oh
it's
yeah,
called.
there might be
It's
free.
totally free on the Android. It's pretty much
There
the
used to
same.
be Voice Dream Lite, but Winston took it off.
Well, $20 isn't bad because you download the software and then you will own it
But this
forever.
is $7.99.
Right.
Yeah, but it has many more. I mean,
Well,
many
this
more
is
features.
newer, and
Yeah.
this is way better.
Yeah, it's way
The
better.
Voices
Yeah,
are better.
yeah,
Everything's better.
Yeah.
I love Voice Dream Reader.
So if you let's see, this is Hatchet. So again, you heard Hatchet being read by.
I haven't heard the computer voice of that.
So, and I'll play different ones. Let's see.
Not human. When he saw Bryan look at him, the pilot seemed to open up a bit and he smiled. Ever fly in the co-pilot's seat before? He leaned over and lifted the headset off his right ear and put it on his temple, yelling to overcome the sound of the engine. Bryan shook his head. He had never been in any kind of...
So that's, now the other part too is, as far as the audio, you can download different speech engines. So that's Sally. This is Julie reading it.
Plane. Never seen the cockpit of a plane except in films or television. It was loud and confusing. First time.
So we can play around. You can also play around with the speeds, which is really something unique. And a lot of the students that I work with, they may start out listening to this at 135. In this case, when Bryan finished up, he was somewhere around 300 words a minute, which I couldn't even process. But he was able to process it with comprehension, which is pretty amazing. So the brain is able to adapt and push. And again, these are efficiency tools. So if Bryan had to go home and read 2 chapters, he could do it himself as opposed to his parents having to read it to him. So that's really the independence that some of these tools offer. In addition, what's nice about Voice Dream is if you're working with kids middle school, high school, they may have an assignment where the teacher says read chapter 1, and at the end of the chapter, write your reflections about it. So right within Voice Dream, I can go to a text, and now I can pop in. Ooh, do that. I can pop in a note, right? Student can either type it, or I could use my voice. So if I go over here, this is a note that I'm placing in Voice Dream. In Voice Dream. I can also listen to it. But you can see now I have a little yellow sticky. The other part too, again, if teachers want, they can embed, those strategies inside for comprehension. They could,
But
put it.
the kids actually in middle school, they use annotations, so
Yeah,
that
so
would
this-
be perfect
yeah.
for the kids that.
You can
need to
highlight
do it
annotation,
fast.
and then you can print and export the annotations as well. So that,
You can.
yeah. So if the teacher said hand in your notes, you can export the notes and.
Does it like take down into account like the page it's on? Does it just have all the notes like?
Yeah, so if I click on
Somewhere.
here, export highlights, let's see. I can, actually let me go back here for a second.
It tells you the page.
Yeah, it tells you the
can type
page,
it in.
yeah. So if I go here, you can see the highlights. Those are the notes, and I can export them, so it does reference them as well. And the other part too is, if I click on here, it'll jump to that note, so I can go back and if I wanted to add or something to it. So it's actually and you can also you can see you can bookmark, pronounce. You can also highlight as well, and those become annotations as well. So it gives you a lot of study skills and ways to annotate. So it's a great. It is a really good program. I would
You can
highly.
play with the fonts and the spacing.
Yeah, so I'm using the Open Dyslexic font, but you can change different
Oh,
fonts.
so it actually has that built in?
Yeah.
Because a
It
lot of
actually-
the other ones don't.
Yeah.
The new one, Open Dyslexia, is the free one, but it actually has dyslexia built into the new
Yeah, so it
version.
has. These are the fonts that it is dyslexic. Yeah, so.
Dyslexia is modified more often, it's
Yeah.
updated more often.
Yeah, so you can do that. The other part too is I'm going to go back here. So occasionally, I actually work with a young girl. She was in 6th grade, and she had some perceptual and visual problems. And one of the things that we can do, I'm just going to change the font back to that, just so. So go back. So what we did for her, and again, you may have kids trouble tracking, is I can now just have 3 lines, or I can do 1 line as it's doing it. I can change the color. So again, if you have kids who have attentional problems, tracking problems. So now when it reads,
God, he thought, how he hated lawyers who sat with their comfortable smiles and tried to explain to him in legal terms.
now I think Sally sounds better, but
Terms how all that he lived in was coming apart and the breaking and shattering of all.
and some of them actually sound a little better, a little bit faster. So what's that, better, faster?
All the solid things. His home, his
So it
life,
sounds
all
a
the
little more
solid
natural.
things. Divorce.
But when you're working with kids who may be not familiar with text-to-speech, you can actually try and sample different speech engines, and the kids like doing that, and so they're not always stuck with Heather. They do cost, you can see, $2.99 to $4.99, $1.99. But again, students can have their preference, and they can, they may like one.
The built-in voices aren't bad.
What's that?
The built-in voices.
No, they're not compared to what, you remember?
Bookshare by itself.
Do you remember the Echo speech card?
Have you ever listened to the Park read aloud
No.
version? It is like 1982 voice to text.
Yeah, because they don't want to pay the extra license.
You listen to it and you're like, you have to put it on like supersonic speed actually to understand what it's
Yeah, so
unbelievable.
yeah, so it's just a great all around program as well. The other part too is, for those of you that are supporting kids even for having to read tests, this will read Microsoft Word documents, so a student could literally listen to either a study guide, a test, and respond as well. So any other questions? So Bookshare is totally free, except this app is $7.99. On the Windows, you can get the Read Out Loud Bookshare Edition, which is free. Totally free, so with an account you can get it's called Read Out Loud Bookshare Edition. It was done by Don Johnston.
It's a little bit not as user-friendly.
Well, it's not, and I don't know if so what happened is Bookshare did not want to pay Don Johnston to update the infrastructure of the program, and so now it's a little complicated. You have to download the book as a zip file and then open it in
Sometimes it doesn't open.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't. So that's why on the iPad it's seamless. I mean, it really is seamless. So
This is so much better.
it is a lot better. So, how much time do I have? How much time?
Well, the video machine right there.
Oh, really? Okay.
4 minutes.
Just give me 4 minutes I have? That's it?
Yeah, up to like 1/4 after.
Let me see if I can quickly get this. So I have a Surface 3 here, which is a Windows-based tablet.
Brian, where did you get that stand for your iPad?
That's a Belkin stand. They gave it to me to review, so. But they mean, it's,
How do you like it? If you type on it, is that fine?
yeah, you could try it. It's great for like presenting and stuff. It's really nice.
For kids with physical disabilities, would it be leaning too hard right now in kids?
Yeah, it might. Let me just, yeah. Now, unplug this.
I don't know if they want to do this on the
Yeah.
Great. So, one of the really great nice things about the Surface tablet is the Miracast technology. So you can see wireless. In addition, you also have the tremendous writing experience. So if you're a teacher, let me just change the color so we can see that.
So is that any different from your
It's their kind of version of it. The only difference is that I'm not hopping on your network. It's creating its own Wi-Fi network. So it's called Miracast. And that little box that I plugged in, it's about $99, and it's just great because it gives you wireless capabilities, but it pushes video and audio as well. So it's both, yeah, it's like the Apple TV. But again, the other part too, it doesn't put a load on your Wi-Fi network, which is different. When you put the Apple TV on the network, you're actually putting that on your network. So it's bandwidth. There's no bandwidth involved, with this. And there are some, some unique features. One is a lot of schools are finding that, for our kids who are dysgraphic, it's not the best, but there are a lot of kids who really benefit from being able to write, take notes, do math, science, so it's really easy to, to do this kind of work with this. And in districts that are Windows, a lot of them are going to OneNote and also shared notebooks. They just came out with an administrative tool that lets teachers create notebooks for students that they can go into and put resources and share things of that sort. So that's kind of exciting. But the one thing, can you get me on? You could probably, you can get me on the network, right? I just want to show.
Sure.
You have good memory. Thank you. So I'm just going to go out here. I'm just going to put this down for a second. So the other part too is this has a keyboard, has a built-in kickstand. This is Surface 3, so this starts at $499, and you can get it. I don't know what the configuration is, but Microsoft announced a special versions for schools that's going to be lower cost than the $499 for the basic unit.
Well, the basic unit's running about $100 cheaper than an iPad right now.
Right. Yeah, this one has 4 gigabytes. So I'm going to go, again, the nice part, this is a full Windows experience. So I'm going to go out to Chrome, and I'm going to see if we can get that going here. So now I'm going to go out to my drive.
I wish I could do that.
Very fast network. Slow.
Thanks to our amazing tech department.
So I'm gonna do a new, there we go. So a new Google Doc. So, so right now I have, let's give this a second. So right now I have,
R.
Let's give this a second, it's loading some stuff.
R.
Okay, so I have, this is Co-Writer Universal running in the Chrome browser, so I could type, let me just make the text a little bit bigger here. So, yesterday, so you can see it's there. If I just hover over the word, it reads it. For those kids that, I use this a lot for kids who have motor disabilities, so I can now use, if I want, yesterday, my input could be pressing the 2 key. Yesterday, let's move this out. We went. So now I could use the number key. So I work with a lot of kids who have mild cerebral palsy and they can't use a mouse, and so now they can select the word from the list using went to the zoo. Okay.
Yesterday we went to the zoo.
So it reads it. So it's very similar to what was found on the iPad, and this can be used with any place where there's it's looking for text. So that is Co-Writer. You can see it's kind of a little extension. I'm going to turn that one off. I'm going to turn on. So this toolbar over here is the text help. It's read and write for Google Docs. The other part too, for teachers, there's a free account, so teachers can download this and use this for up to a year, and they're pretty good about updating it. So if I want to use the tools here, here's the play button.
Yesterday we went to the zoo.
So that's the read and write for Google. They also have word prediction. Again, some little nuances. So there's the word prediction. You can see the text is small, but again, if I hover over it, and this one I have to do, I think it's the control. I have to use the control key and the number key to input. So for some kids that too much motor, let's say the girl. If I spell, you can see girl comes up. I could tap on it.
In.
The guy is playing baseball. So I mean the word prediction is pretty good, but I wish I could configure. I can't configure the size of that word prediction. There's also speech recognition built in as well. So if I click on this over here, there is speech recognition built into this application.
Is that the Google Read, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's if you Google it, free account for teachers, that you can install this. This runs just in your Google Docs environment. It also will read the web as well. I'm going to turn the word prediction off. The other part too is if I highlight certain words, let's see. I usually like using the mouse. So if I highlight that in yellow and let's say application, let's do yellow. I'll just show you the vocabulary supports that are built in. Okay, so now if I click on looks like the dot with the line. I click on that. It vocabulary, a new document. So I click on that. So it's actually going to create a document in a second. And I did it twice, but that's okay. If there's a symbol, the symbol will be pulled up as well. So if your student needs some picture supports, come on, there we go. So it uses picture supports, and then the whole idea is the student can then in the notes section write a sentence with the word. And again, because we're here, if I just hit the play button.
A formal talk that someone gives to a group of people. Her speech lasted half an hour.
So you can read it.
A lengthy rebuke. A good lecture was my father's idea of discipline. The teacher gave him a talking to. Words making up the dialogue of a play. The actor forgot his speech. Your characteristic style or manner of expressing yourself.
So you can stop it. You have controls over the speech, how fast, how slow, those kinds of things. You have highlighting tools. I showed you the vocabulary tool. There's a word like a fact finder goes out to the web and stuff like that. And then this will also let's go here. Let's see.
If you were to increase the page from the 100%, and let's say you went to 150%, would that make everything larger? Because you're basically looking at a piece of paper.
Right. I could probably.
It would be.
If I did, let's see.
It's right above the blue
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Then it's a little bigger.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get less lines going
Yes,
down the
yeah,
page,
yeah.
but you get.
You can zoom it in, so then you have some control. So I mean, it's a nice application. Again, these companies are trying to get school districts to jump on board so that it costs them, a buck and a half a head per student, but you can buy it individually for a student for a year, which is kind of neat. The other, I'm just going to open up Word.
I just want to add a little bit to what you were saying about the Microsoft Surface. We also have 700 laptops in our district, and this program will work on all 700 laptops.
That's correct. So, this is kind of this is kind of interesting. So and this will work on Windows. This is called WordQ. Let's go here. Let me just see. So. So this has, this is word prediction. It also has text to speech.
The.
Just, let me make that bigger.
Boy. Went.
So, and I can customize the experience here. This also has, if you add, so this is WordQ. This will read text, also do word prediction. But it also has, if you buy the component SpeakQ, it does word prediction with speech. So if I go into my settings, let me just see what I set this at. So if I go into my options, speech recognition, I have it as speak and select. So now if you have a student that wants to kind of use his speech and use the word prediction together, you can do that. So if I click on Mike, to the park.
To the park.
So I get
Kensuolia.
to the park.
To deplore.
To the park.
To the pork.
To the park.
To the clark.
I'm gonna try the whole sentence. The boy went.
At the boy. The boy
Went to the park.
went to the pork.
That's close enough.
Went, and it's close. The boy went. The boy went to the pork.
So hopefully they'd hear that and they would make the change. So that's kind of interesting. Here's a really interesting an interesting program. It's intended for kids in probably high school or college. It was developed by also a British company, and up here, open project. So the whole idea of this is that students would be given their PowerPoint presentation ahead of time, and they are able to audio record when the teacher is talking about that particular slide. So if I was to go in here, I would click here. So a lot of students are given the LiveScribe Smart Pen when they enter college, and it's become a really important tool for them to take notes. So what you can see, it broke up my audio into chunks. I was also able to code the important part of that audio. And again, if the student wants, they can type some very small amount of notes in the text field, or when they come home and review, they can type their text notes. What's nice about this, it treats the audio as if it was like a highlight. So at the end, if I wanted to, I can pull out all the important red audio pieces and listen to it. So these can be PDFs, these can be JPEG files, and again, this works really well when the student has the PowerPoint ahead of time.
You can do LiveScribe with Evernote too, I think.
Yes, we can. Yeah. So again, it's a really interesting tool. The technology is far exceeding some of our school policies with regard to audio, which has been an issue. But I have worked with some high school kids using actually the LiveScribe pen, which works exceedingly well. It captures the audio. I use it in the work that I do. But what's happening now is when students are going into college, they're no longer given a note taker. They're given a LiveScribe pen, and that's what they refer back to, because it basically timestamps everything that happens when the teacher or professor is speaking. So it's a pretty incredible technology. Let me just.
The only thing, my older daughter who's in high school, one of my daughters in high school, it picks up a lot of, like if kids are yelling out and calling out, it's very confusing for her. Picks up a lot of different.
Yeah, I mean, something she could do if she wanted. I mean, it just is they sell a 3D microphone that you can plug into the pen, and she would have to put the earplugs in. But it has, if she just kind of threw it over her shoulders, the quality would be much improved. It would actually filter out some of it. But it's pretty good. I mean, a standard classroom, the microphone in that is pretty good. And now they came out with a new pen that uses either an Android phone, an Android tablet, or an iPhone or an iPad. They use the microphone of that to record the voice. I haven't tried that in a room yet, but it's an interesting solution.
She might already have ordered it, who knows?
You get the bill, you see LiveScribe or Amazon.
Yeah, I do.
Right?
I do see that.
So I just want to show you what the notes kind of look like. So one of the pens I have, the nice part is it backs up the notes to. Let's look at it. Just a free. I gotta see if I can find a note that I can. Let me just. I'm gonna. Yeah, I have some personal information, so I don't want to show it because I have a lot of. I use it a lot when I'm evaluating kids' needs, and I want to record their reading fluency, or I want to during an interview, so I don't want to open it up. But I can back up my pen to Evernote in the cloud, and so if I ever lose my book, everything is there. So it's kind of interesting. The other part too is I think it's a great tool. It'd be a great tool in the hands of that special ed teacher that's doing the in-class support, because they could be in charge of the pen, take the notes, and then those notes can be shared out, with audio and video. So the students are they'll be seeing the teacher write the notes as they're with the audio as well. It can be delivered with a web browser as well. So there's lots of interesting things. lots of interesting technologies. You know, so now I have, you know, the iPad. For some kids I work with, you know, the Surface is a great is a great device for them. So just, you know, there's lots of choices, lots of possibilities, Questions? Yes.
I have a question, because I think this is an ongoing issue, aside from getting all of the technology into all the kids' hands, which is
Yes.
always an issue in any district. Teacher training, and the way scheduling is set up to
Mhm.
allow teachers to utilize, because
Right.
I do a lot of technology in my classroom.
I can sense
and I
that.
have middle school
Yes,
kids,
right.
and I put them on the computer, I'm like,
Right.
okay, I downloaded this app, and I'll bring my own thing in if I
Right.
don't have time to get it
Right.
out of school. Play with it, tell me what you think, and my kids come out with me and we do presentations like they're doing.
Okay.
But for me, and I do this as part of my
Right.
job because I teach dyslexic
Right,
children,
right.
I'm giving something up when I'm working with them on this. I'm giving up some of their Wilson training, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
there's no time in the schedule where the kids learning how to use the equipment, the teachers learning how, so if you're seeing this in the classroom, like, is there some kind of system that people have in place, like, that you've seen that makes it work better?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I know it makes it
No
work.
one uses
Yeah,
it.
I know it makes it work better, but the schools have to make the investment in the professional development, the training. I mean, I have worked with schools on an ongoing basis where I come in and I work with teachers or with kids, and that works well, but, you know, the school has to make
But
them.
it's not just the PD, the teacher may know how to use
Yeah.
it, but getting that technology trained for the kids and finding time in the teaching schedule to help them get it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like have somebody sit with them while they're learning how to use
Yeah.
it.
Right, so from day one, it's ready to roll.
But if the kids are like into study skills, I think
Yeah.
that's a perfect place for that
Okay.
kind of thing. The other part too is, I really think, one of my friends, who was doing a lot of work with college students, he just wrote a book, and, you know, he talked about how important the transition services are and how important the technology was, because a lot of the kids going to college, they didn't have the skills. So I think, I think summer kinds of experiences for kids, you know, using, you know, before they get into high school, let's say, there's a couple of days training with some of these technologies. Might be, you know, might be helpful. I mean, after school kinds of, I know time is a problem. I mean, there's also, I mean, there's a lot of supports on YouTube, you know, for training, if you need, you can find a lot of different supports.
And yet the kids will go on YouTube to learn how to do all kinds of crazy things in their video games, but somebody will
Video
actually help them in the classroom.
Oh
I'm
my
not gonna
God.
get them to do it, that's the
Yeah,
time.
Yeah, the other part too, I know it's far off, but every March I do an unconference with my friend Mike Murata, and you know, everyone's welcome to attend, parents, teachers. This past March we had 150. Yeah, what? We had 150 teachers, parents,
That's
and
why you're here.
that's what I'm here. I know. And it's if you haven't done it, it's great. I mean, I think it's a great PD in district if you do your own unconference and you come together and you talk about what's important. It's a leap of faith, but in the morning we don't have an agenda, and within a half hour we have an agenda and everyone is chipping in. It was pretty amazing,
It's
right?
amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
So if we try to do one in our school, you can help us facilitate it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's really about facilitation. You don't have to necessarily be an expert. You want to have like what you just said.
Yeah.
That might be a session on how do we, you know, put more technology and PD into the hands of teachers. and
See, because
kids.
I know that's a big frustration for parents.
Yes, it is.
Well, gee, the school has these things, or the school's willing to provide these things,
Yeah.
but the kids aren't using it. But from our perspective, every single decision you make in a classroom,
Yeah.
whatever you add, you're taking something
Right.
away. And the state is adding constantly, and they
Yeah.
never take away. So just fitting everything in is overwhelming.
Yeah. And again, sort of figure out what the technology is working with the instructional tech people is important too in terms of.
So we have an awesome tech
Yeah,
department, so
yeah,
kudos to them.
yeah. So you can
And very small, they do everything
I
for
know,
very small
I
group
know,
of people.
I know. It is a challenge. I'm not. But there's lots of stuff, a lot of PD going on Twitter and YouTube, and it's really exciting, but it can be overwhelming as you know, because so much stuff is coming out, and you got to pick your toolkit and stick
Right.
with it. So
You
you
try
don't-
to do everything.
Yeah, you can't do everything, and you just got to say, okay, we're going to go with this because it will give us the most coverage,
Right.
and then just run with it and make sure everyone's really well trained on it, and then you could, you know, then year to year you can.
What a great thing for an unconference if the parents and teachers come together and read. What would be the bill spent for our bucks in
wow.
terms of our time invested,
Yeah.
right? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah.
And then we could all agree, okay, we're not gonna get everything.
No.
But we'll focus on these three.
Right,
items.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could do those kinds of things, where you just kind of focus on a couple, I mean, years ago, a lot of schools, they standardized on solo, which was co-writer, write out loud, draft builder, you know, and
We
then.
had all that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what happened
Yeah,
to it?
yeah, I mean,
Read out loud, write out loud,
yeah,
co-writer. We
yeah,
had
and now
that
it's
say.
kind of, little, you know, it's like the kids go, "Ugh." It looks old, it hasn't been developed in a long time, so, yeah, but.
And
Yeah,
you know
well, we
what?
must have
It
that.
was
It had to be
user-friendly, yeah, it was
20 years ago.
user-friendly for the time.
Yeah,
But now our expectations
Yeah.
are so
So
much
much
higher.
higher.
yeah, yeah, so, I mean, that's why they're all moving to kind of web-based kinds of, solutions. It's pretty, I mean, I'm amazed like how much stuff can be done in the browser. Let me just want this is a really, I think this is a unique.
Well, even just in the last few years, we used to use Dragon. I used to recommend that to people all the time for homework, and people were like, "Oh my God, that's changed my child's life." Now Dragon's such a pain because Siri is so much better. at voice
Yeah, it
recognition.
is. Maybe it's not on this one. But there's a program called ThoughtQ. I don't think it's loaded on here, but it's really interesting for kids that need ideas. ThoughtQ is a really interesting app, and you can actually download it and use it for a couple of days. Let me just use it.
That's cool. Yeah. And I like the idea of using after-school study to hone
That's
skills. I like that. Get those eighth graders, keep
Oh, here
that.
it is. Oh, that's
I like the summer idea of.
And you know what else? It's gonna be like some of those kids gonna come different times for education to incorporate some of this.
Yeah. So I'll end with this. This is kind of interesting. I've been playing around with this. It's called ThoughtQ. Like I said, this is an app that runs in the Chrome browser. And like I said, it's pretty amazing what they're able to do. So this is a great tool for kids who, they're need to write a research paper, and this lets them get at things that they never would have thought because the interconnectedness of different ideas and concepts. So like if I would want to do something on Nepal, it actually has word prediction in here as I type. So Nepal, you can see it has word prediction. Also has text to speech. And then
Nepal and
so it's
Nepal.
Down the left-hand side, those are all the terms that are kind of interlinked that kids can go in. So if I were to click on something, it's now
Constitutional.
It's going to pull up Google Pages or images with those ideas. It will also reference where the ideas, the websites, and you can see on the right-hand side, you can actually open up a Google Doc and start storing your information, your ideas, and it will capture all the URLs as to where the information came from. So it's kind of interesting for those kids that get stuck or they're doing research on a particular topic that they're new to, they don't have a lot of background information. This can begin to interlink ideas, and you can change the linkages and the complexity using those bars all the way at the left. So you download it and try it, and then the students can store what they've been researching in their Google Drive, so they have access to it. So so it's kind of interesting, and there's text to speech built in as well, so it will read. So right from within here, let's see. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting kinds of stuff. So much going on.
It's hard to keep up with it all.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
like a full-time job, just like staying on top.
Yeah, it is. I use I don't know. To keep up. I'm on Twitter a lot. Folks always joke, but it's the amount of PD that you can get and you can learn on Twitter is just unbelievable. What's that?
I guess that's what I have to do next. Right?
And Flipboard. Have you used Flipboard? Yeah, Flipboard's fantastic for, you can sort of organize things that interest you, and then all the feeds come to you as opposed to you having to search, which is kind of great.
I just find sometimes the time that you
Yeah.
spend on there,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Usually it's night when I go to sleep, before I go to bed, I kind of keep up with it. And the part two is good, it lets you quickly, you read the topics, this doesn't really interest me, and I just keep going until something interests me, then I click and I'll read it, so I can quickly, peruse it, so that's pretty good, yeah. And like I said, there's a tremendous amount of unconferences in New Jersey. I mean, all of a sudden they're just blossoming on, and there'll be a lot this summer all over the place, and they're free and they're very informative. So yeah, that's that.
So, can you give us an example of how it worked with a school district where you're providing?
Yeah, so different models. So I'm working with the Randolph Township Schools this year, and what I'm doing, they brought me in to work with the director put together teams of teachers, and have been working with them, kind of increasing their knowledge of some of these technologies and how they can be utilized in the classroom. So I've done a couple trainings with them. I work with the Warren Township School for about 2 years doing the same thing. The director built teams, and then those teams became the go-to people in the school for the AT resources. And then I've been working in OPACon. That's different. I go into the classroom and I spend like about 45-50 minutes with a teacher, and we review certain apps, and and many times it's not that the kids are sort of there and I'm sort of integrating, but also there's, how to get release time, so it does vary. Sometimes I've started boot camps in the summer, and then it continues through the year. I mean, the thing is, if professional development has to be, sort of systematic and consistent, and that's really important to kind of build on the skills. But I know schedules are hard to, schools can't pull 20 teachers every month to get together.
Well, we get a lot of PD,
right,
and so we could put more of this into the PD.
Right.
And some of that is the teachers may not be comfortable with the tools, but I'm telling you from a teaching point of view, because I'm constantly looking
right.
at new ones.
Right.
And I have the advantage of working with local school students, so when I don't get it, I hand them the iPad and say, okay, figure this out and teach me. But the thing is, the time that you spend in the classroom, there's that period of time where, until they become very familiar with the tool, it's time out of the teaching day, and between the standardized testing and the SGOs and the benchmarks and the assemblies and the training for this and the fire drills and the lockdowns and every time
when do you teach?
Around, there's this tinier and tinier window of teaching time.
But I think this is the return. The return on the investment in these tools is going to be huge. Yeah. I mean, because I can tell you all the kids that are in college because of this, and so that's what we have to have up there is, the return on the investment is going to be huge. And if we don't, as much as we understand, I know the emphasis is on content, but if we don't give them these tools, they're just not going to, it's hard to make it in the world that we live in with so much text, and we have to teach them how to use it in the strategies. Because unfortunately, I see a lot of kids. Every summer, I see a handful of kids that have failed. They failed their freshman year of college, because they went in, they were not familiar with these tools, they thought they can keep up, and they just can't. They can't keep up. Between the reading and the writing, they just
or they
can't
have
keep up.
The tools, but they don't put the time into practice.
Yeah, that too. There's certainly time management, those kinds of things. But a lot of the kids, they do go off to college and without being familiar with these kinds of tools, and it's hard to get. What's that?
Not mine.
Not yours. That's great. That's great. But there are. Again, if they're not familiar, they may get a little introduction once they get to college, but they don't really access them, and then they just can't keep up. So it's important. I know it's like a life. It's a life skill for them. Yeah, it really is. So that's it. So it's great having the time with you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for coming. I don't know what the next step is, but
we're going to try the first
step.
Try it at the conference.
I think figuring out you're right, you have to figure out what products
Yeah, you gotta put the toolkit together, so this way you're not driving yourself crazy with 100 different ones,
It
you know.
sounds like we already have a couple things that
We do.
I didn't even know
Yeah, you don't
about.
even know, yeah.
I mean,
We have Evernote, we have
Do some of
Kidspiration.
this stuff.
Yeah, I had voice reader, but it got wiped off and
so
trying to get
Lakeview
it back.
had access to Kidspiration?
We have a tech committee too. Is the tech committee, something's might be starting up again.
Yeah, I haven't seen
We have a
that.
district technology meeting.
You have to understand that the focus is, remember, special ed is a small part of that,
It is, it's part of
very
it.
small part, right? So out of the number of students altogether, so you really need stuff that's focused on assistive technology separately. So it is not something to feed, your instinct is to say, why are teachers using this great tools?
No, I understand what I've been asking. I've been asking for years for certain things, and why didn't Patty's teacher even know that she had access to it?
Part of it too is having devices and the ability of the student to bring it home or to be able